My name is Callie. This is my video summary for Module 2. I really enjoyed getting to watch the 2015 version of Cinderella. I actually got to watch it directly after watching the 1950s version. Kind of kept everything really fresh in my mind. One of the things I noticed is that the stepmother was a lot more cruel and harsh in this version of the film. I think it's because they had to draw a harsh comparison or a harsh opposite to the main theme of that film, of the 2015 film, being like having courage and being kind throughout the entire film. They say that multiple times. Why could they have depicted her mother as more cruel in this version other than it just being a harsh comparison versus the 1950s version would be my question there. For my second thing is I really appreciated that the film did a really good job of reimagining the fairy tale. And also staying true to immediate key indicators of the 1950s film and also the lore of the origin story. As mentioned in our reading this week, this is important because it feeds into nostalgia and it allows the audience to connect to the content that they know previously, whether that be from a fairy tale, the folk tale, or the 1950s film version. The prince in this film was set up in having no say whatsoever in who he was going to marry. They had already arranged a marriage with this princess that I don't remember hearing about in any version of the Cinderella story other than this one. And this is comparative to the prince in the 1950s version where he kind of had the say from the get-go. I noticed that, of course, they gave the prince the opportunity to make his own decision later on in the film, but he didn't have that authority or that agency right at the beginning. My other question is, what would you think is the most uncanny part of the 2015 adaptation in comparison to the 1950s film? I think it's not necessarily... It's one of those things where it puts you off a little bit, but it's still kind of the story, but it's still not. I think the extra emphasis on Cinderella's mother's death was a little bit interesting to me, so I would just be curious to know what you would think. And my last thought is, I think one of the biggest impactful scenes from the 2015 version of Cinderella is one of the last scenes we see with the stepmother and Cinderella. Cinderella verbally says the words, "I forgive you," to her stepmother at the end of the film. This proves the theme of the unwavering kindness, and it teaches the audience a really good lesson of no matter how cruel someone might be, they're still deserving of forgiveness, they're still deserving of kindness, and I think that was a really good way to wrap that up, especially after speaking to the harshness and cruelness of the mother in the beginning. Thank you.